Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome into another week of the Illegal Contact Podcast. Coming to you, well, for me anyway, coming to you live from, I guess not live, you're not watching live, but I'm live at this moment in the frozen tundra of northern Michigan. I'm along here with Thomas Pensiero, who's in the frozen tundra of Connecticut, New York area, all the same, the north. And then
Northeast, baby. It's the Northeast.
A balmy 56-degree Florida. Jared,
get your puffer jackets out.
Yeah, living our best life down here.
I got my Columbia on. I'm ready to be warm.
We take the show on the road.
It is going to be 60 on Friday, so it will be warm up and a little bit nicer, but it's a little cold for October even. It's football weather, though, which is obviously what we are here to talk about. And this episode is going to be mostly dedicated to Peyton and the Tennessee Volunteers. Peyton was at the game this week, and so he has actually graced us. And because this was such a historic moment, we have decided to let Peyton, even though he could not join us tonight,
he's
still
at the
have
Phillies
the spotlight
game
for the show.
Is
that where he's at?
Yeah, he doubles as Kyle Schwarber, so he had to play in the Phillies game tonight and couldn't play. Yeah, he hit that big home run yesterday, and game two, unfortunately, they couldn't win.
No, I think he's Schwarber's stunt double. So Schwarber hit the ball, and then Peyton was the one that ran around the bases.
Peyton played today because Schwarber didn't hit a home run. So there you go.
Yeah. All right, I guess. Well, with no further avail, let's go ahead. Peyton, it's good to have you. Take us away. Tell us about the game.
I have no words. I'm speechless for what a fantastic football weekend this was. And Kyle, thank you for letting me kick off the topics here. I trust that you introed everyone to Legal Contact Podcast, and excited that everyone's ready to just listen to me talk about Tennessee for as long as I want. I'll try not to take up too much time, but having been at that game, I can without a doubt say that was the greatest game I've ever been to in my life. It's going to be really hard to top. First of all, just from the excitement. Second of all, the fact that it's a rivalry, and just the way that it ended was amazing. I could not be happier about the way that Tennessee beat Alabama. I feel like, and I've been telling people at work too, I feel like that I've just been smiling in pretty much every scenario. I could be talking to someone about some very unpleasant things at work, but I'm still smiling just because we finally beat Alabama.
That's where I was after trouble with the snap for like a week at work. Jared could probably remember that. I was so happy that entire week. It never ended. I feel you, Peyton. I understand this.
Get into some of the game breakdown here, but the biggest thing for me, it keeps flashing in my mind, is just 52-49. The 15 years, 15 consecutive victories of Alabama over Tennessee, and it came down to 15 seconds for Hooker to be able to make that completion to Ramel Keaton, make the next completion immediately to Brew McCoy, huge catch, and then for McGrath to be able to kick the game-winning field goal, which the fact that the ball was tipped and still went in, it's nothing short of a sign that God wanted Tennessee to win that game. And I'm happy about that. I'm glad to have God as a volunteer. To get into some of the specifics here about the game, just about every single part of our team, I was genuinely impressed with how everybody showed up. Alabama is absolutely one of the best teams in the nation. The fact that we were able to come up and play so big in so many different areas was just, it was kind of surprising, because you almost accept that you might falter in certain areas. Everybody rose against the adversity, and I know there's going to be talk about defense. Jared's going to want to talk about, if Tennessee had a defense. I've got some comments on that I would love to hear your feedback. But no, I mean, some of the keys to the victory here, Hendon Hooker, Jalen Hyatt, Jeremy Banks, and our rushing game. I mentioned to Andy a couple of weeks ago that one of the big things for Tennessee to do against better opponents this year, specifically that week against LSU, was we have to establish the run. That is something that we were able to do. I was happy for Jalen Wright. He led the team with 71 yards rushing. Hooker had 56. Some of that was designed. Other was, obviously Alabama's got a great pass rush and just kind of forcing him out of the pocket and him making a play. And then Jabari Small had 53. So the fact that we were able to, put up 182 yards rushing against that Alabama defense, very happy with that. 2 touchdowns off of rushing as well. Don't want to take away one of those. I think Princeton Fant had like a 2-yard rush for a touchdown, so I don't want to take that away from him. That certainly contributed. Our 182 yards rushing compared to Alabama's 114 yards rushing, which 103 of those were Jahmyr Gibbs. We won the rushing battle. That was a big win. It is very rare that teams win the rushing battle against Alabama. That does not happen. But Hooker threw for 385, and obviously one of the biggest stories that's still hitting is the fact that Jalen Hyatt had 6 receptions, 207 yards receiving, and 5 touchdowns. That is just absolutely mind-blowing. Which, fun fact, since 2000, only 12 players have caught at least 5 touchdowns in a game, and Hyatt has joined that list and did it in fewer receptions than anyone else that was on that list. I looked through some of the list, and a few of those guys, it was, 10, 12, 13 receptions. And he almost cut that in half. I think the next closest actually had 7 receptions, maybe. But yeah, Hyatt did it in 6. To say that he is, well, let me back up. Cedric Tillman got hurt, and that was the big question. Who steps up? You knew Ramel Keaton was going to get more playing time. Brew McCoy hadn't really stepped into his own yet. He was still, just getting his targets, getting that chemistry in game with Hooker. And Hyatt was already a productive guy for us, but he was kind of that slot guy, that motion guy who, he was second fiddle to Cedric Tillman. He has been an absolute monster for us since Tilly went out. And this past weekend, the dominance over an Alabama secondary that he had of just burning guys, even if it wasn't one-on-one, which rarely did they have a safety not available to help, he was able to get past his corner into space away from the safety and make a play. Again, this is another one where it's not often you beat Alabama in the rushing attack. It's not often that you're able to put up numbers like that against an Alabama secondary. Yes, this is not Alabama's strongest team that they've had in the last 10 years. Not even in the last 5 years, in my opinion. But they are still an incredibly talented, gifted, and organized team. But I think the speed that our offense plays with certainly played into that. It caused some problems, not letting them get set, not letting the DBs have enough time to communicate when we had motion or switching, as far as overloading a side or even our heavy tight end packages. So anyway, I just think Heupel had a really, really good game plan going against the Alabama team or the Alabama defense. And yeah, we executed. There were missed opportunities. We had a missed extra point. There was the fumbled exchange with Hooker that ended up giving up a touchdown to Alabama. I look at that and I think, okay, would we have been looked at differently if we would have won by 2 scores? Probably. If you beat Alabama handily, but there's something to be said about coming back and winning in a close one. But yeah, I could not. Couldn't be more impressed. If you look at our play calling, it was pretty diversified, but as far as what actually took place, I mean, we had 39 rushes compared to 21 receptions. I think if I immediately picture the game, it feels like we were throwing constantly. But we weren't. We were running the ball more than we were throwing the ball. Hooker I think he completed 21 passes. Okay. It's an average day, but to throw up 385 yards off of 21 completions, I mean, the aggressiveness, the efficiency, I mean, so many things that we really picked our battles in the passing game, and then we just tried to run it down their throat, literally with the rushing game. So yeah, our offensive game plan, I mean, Heupel is just, he already got another extension with a raise. I just want to do it again after this past week because he is earning it. He is earning that long-term, that highly paid coaching status. So if we look at the defense, and I know that's kind of a question, and a lot of analysts have been talking about the Alabama defense more so than the Tennessee defense. Jared made the comment to me about if Tennessee had any resemblance of a defense that, that we're hands down best team in the country, should be ranked number 1, etc. We have more of a defense than I think people give us credit. I would look to this game as an example of that. From an overall production standpoint, we exceeded that against Alabama. As we're comparing to their defense. Did we play great? No, we did not. We gave up 49 points. That's not a great evening for Tennessee. Things that we did do well, it took them a long time to get down the field most of the time. It took Alabama a long time to get down the field because we were slowing them up. We put them in very bad situations. 3rd and long, 2nd and long. Things that we could have done better was not giving up those 3rd and longs. We had a definitive weakness against tight ends. And then once Alabama was getting into the red zone, we just kept losing Jahmyr Gibbs. He accounted for 3 of the touchdowns for Alabama. You can't lose the one playmaker on the team. So the fact that Gibbs and Latu, their tight end, had the productivity that they did, those were the things that I was not happy with the defense. You can't lose a guy like Gibbs in the red zone, and you can't let Latu have so much room, especially when we've got guys who are a good matchup for him, like Trey Flowers, who have the speed and the size to be able to cover a tight end. Now, I look at some of the positive things that our defense did. Let me read this off. This is something that I feel like people are not looking at, that I think deserves to be looked at when you're comparing the defenses in this game. So Alabama had 1 sack. Tennessee also had 1 sack. Alabama had 2 tackles for loss. Tennessee doubled that and had 4 tackles for loss. Alabama did not have a single pass defensed. Tennessee had 3. QB hurries, Alabama had 0 on Hendon Hooker. Offensive line, thank you. 0 QB hurries. Tennessee had 9 QB hurries against Bryce Young. 4 of those were Jeremy Banks alone. He had a really tough day and assignment to try and keep that defense organized and to focus so much on Bryce Young and Gibbs. Jeremy Banks did amazing as well on the defensive end. So, Jeremy Banks and Trey Flowers both had great games. Trey Flowers led the team in tackles, combined and solo. And then McDonald and Danico Slaughter, they both also big tackling machines. Aaron Beasley, I think, had 3 QB hurries. So, I mean, the pressure that we were putting on from our defensive front, that was the thing that I was most nervous that Alabama would be able to prevent us from doing. But we were able to get past it. We were able to push and get creative enough to disrupt their offensive line. Now, Bryce Young is an amazing player, and he got away from so much of that and was able to just create plays and convert those 3rd and longs, because it was often on 3rd and long that we were doing that. Now, the thing that kind of bugged me about the defense was I think every 3rd down, we did a heavy blitz, which left a lot of guys kind of open in the secondary to be able to make a play for Alabama. So if Bryce Young had any amount of time, he was usually able to find someone. I kind of hoped a few times that we would, when they would load up the line, that we would not blitz and that we would drop into coverage and let them catch something underneath and be short of the 1st down. Not give up 16 yards on a 3rd and 16, but give them 10. They're in their own territory. More than likely, you're going to end up punting. So Tim Banks, our defensive coordinator, he's going to end up being a head coach somewhere at some point because of what he's doing with so little. I think he has molded a lot of average guys and put together a pretty effective defense as far as disrupting a quarterback in their own backfield. There's still gaps. We are far from being the best defense in the country. That is absolutely sure. But I think we are better than people give us credit for, because we are able to match up with an Alabama, beat him in the stat sheet, and beat him on the field. The fact that we were able to do what we needed to do, come up strong, to be able to finish, I can't ask for more than that. But no, this my whole thought or reaction when I'm thinking of the game, I mean, I stood there. I'll have to send you all a picture of this. Patrick, who went to the game with me, he took a few pictures of me when I was not even paying attention. I was just in shock. I screamed and yelled, and then when that calmed down, and I still don't have all of my voice back, I just stood there, hands on my head, staring at the field. It sounds dumb. I mean, we all get it. It might sound dumb to somebody else, but like, to be there and hope for something, and I hope for it every single year. You guys hear me talk about it, and then to actually experience it and experience it in person was, I could not have asked for anything better. The way that we won, the fact that it's this team. I mean, this team is kind of like our redo 2016 when we still had Dobbs and the whole game, Juan Jennings as well, and we had those big wins against Georgia. To me, it looks like the team is back together, but we have a different game plan, and it's working. So it's really exciting to be able to see us jump back in this way and be effective. I have obviously been reading a lot since the game on what this has meant in different ways. A couple of things I wanted to call out as far as this Tennessee team and how special they are. So Alabama has only had 5 games where they have allowed 50 or more points in their entire program history. First one was 1900 against Auburn. Then you had 1906 against Vanderbilt. Then you had 1907 against another Tennessee team, Sewanee. Who knows? They might not even have a football team anymore. Then you jump almost 100 years later. 2003. It was Tennessee that put up, I think it was 50, 53, 40, 53 to, what was that score? I know I had it. I think Alabama had 40 something. Tennessee had like 56 or something. And then this 2022 team just did it. So the fact that we are the only team to have done it more than once, and there's only 5 teams that have ever done it. That to me, I was like, wow, that is huge. That is saying something about this offense to be able to put up a number like that on an Alabama team that is probably a whole lot better than they were back in the 1900s. I mean, the one against Vanderbilt, I think they lost 78-0. So yeah, I mean, this Alabama team is a whole lot better now, but to still put up 52 points against them is incredible for this team. The other thing I wanted to call out, and I had to read this so many times, and I went and looked it up because I was like, really? Is this true? So of the teams in college football history that have started 6-0, and in those 6 games have beat 4 top 25 teams, top 25 opponents, and have scored at least 30 plus points in each of those 6 games, Tennessee is the only team in college football history to have ever done it. I know that as we've been talking about it, I've talked about how we have so many top 25 matchups this year, and the fact that we've played so many to start the year, and yet it wasn't really getting the recognition in the rankings. I didn't think. The fact that 6-0, 4 out of the 6 are over top 25 opponents, and we have such a highly potent offense, and we're the only team in history to have done that. It's just really, really cool. I mean, that doesn't win you a championship. Stats are great and they can help you get there, but that to me, I read it a few times. I was just like, man, this team this year is special. And I'm just still like trying to soak it in. But I mean, even as I look forward, this is going to help us out tremendously with recruiting. Even just this one game, I think is big enough for us to be able to help with recruiting. And then you look at the collective resume of the season so far. That is also helping. Oh, wow. I want to go play for Heupel because he's got something going on in Knoxville right now. Listen to the amount of recruits that we had. For 2023, we had 20 recruits present. 2024 recruits, we had 23 2023 recruits. And then 2024 recruits, we had 19. And then 2025 recruits, we had 12. So, I mean, this particular game was getting a lot of attention from the recruiting side of things as well. And sure, some of those guys probably just wanted the free ticket to come see an amazing game. I know that's what Carnell Tate is, a 5-star wide receiver. I think he's verbally committed to Ohio State. He was one of them, and people have been bashing him on Twitter saying, oh, you're a traitor. He's like, wanted to see a good game. I don't fault him for that. At the very least, maybe we get him to think twice. And that's probably the same scenario for some of these other people who came to visit as well. But huge presence for recruiting. And then I look at the ranking, where we fall, jumping up to number 3. The coaching rankings had me nervous a little bit, but once AP came out, being listed as number 3, I'm not upset with that. If it was anything lower, I would have been upset. I would have felt offended that there was no credence given to us beating the number 3 team in the nation. Leaving Georgia and Ohio State ahead of us, it makes sense. I mean, Georgia won easily. Ohio State, why bring them down when they still look like such a great team and they happen to have that bye week? I think that the next few games obviously give us an opportunity to move up. I'm not concerned with, I want to win. I'm not concerned with being number 1 as much. Obviously 3 games from now, that might have direct implications of moving to number 1, but We have UT Martin this weekend, and then that's a home game. Then we have Kentucky at home, and then we have Georgia at Georgia. That is going to be a hostile environment after they just saw what we did to Alabama. People talking us up, obviously, the Georgia Tennessee hate runs deep. But I mean, that obviously that might end up being a bigger game than the Alabama one. Maybe not in my heart as far as the offense that I have towards everything that Alabama does. But so I mean, when I look at the rankings, I'm happy with 3. I think that we are the best team in the nation along with Ohio State. I truly don't think Georgia has a great defense. They also have the best tight end in the nation. But yeah, I think that us and Ohio State are the best teams in the nation. Ohio State is so balanced, not just on offense, but having that great defense as well. Which that's something that while our guys are playing real hard, if you just compare talent, Ohio State's got us on defense for sure. So if it was an Ohio State Tennessee national championship, and at this point I'm kind of thinking that might happen if we can both keep our productivity up, then I mean that would be 2 very exciting offenses to see going at one another. Because if you're comparing offense as well, Ohio State's offense is way better than Alabama's. Alabama has really struggled at the receiver position and then offensive line as well. Jahmyr Gibbs and Bryce Young are pretty much the only reason they're still like really pushing and putting up points there. So anyway, so yeah, I'm happy with our ranking. As far as my own Heisman pick for our little pool, I'm sticking with what I have. When I look at kind of the national side of things of who I think is the front runner, it's still Stroud and Hooker neck and neck. The thing that I keep kind of breaking apart in my head, if it's based on stats and talent, it's Stroud all the way. But if you're looking at wins and talent, Hooker has it. We have to get through the season to see how everything fleshes out. But right now, Stroud's got the stats. I mean, as far as the spotlight of being at Ohio State, leading the Big Ten right now in a lot of categories. Hooker's leading the SEC, sure, and many of those categories, neck and neck with Bryce Young and a few others. But if you're just looking at stats, I'd say Stroud has it. But if you're looking at the wins, I mean, Hooker is taking down some giants to be able to make a name, win, and push his team forward. And I think that it's kind of a perfect combination right now of Cooper wants to talk Tennessee right now. He's all in for it. It's a perfect combination of Heupel and Hooker. I just think that they understand one another incredibly well, the trust that they have in one another to be able to be effective out on the field. Heupel doesn't need to micromanage Hooker. He knows the decision making in the preparation that Hendon is putting in prior to the game time. They build the offensive plan together, and Hooker trusts that, hey, my coaches have everyone else prepared. Like I'm working with them, sure, but I trust that the rest of my offense and that my defense is ready to go. So that as long as I go out and do my job, everybody else is going to come through as well. So to be able to see that on the team is, I don't know, it's cool to see the productivity, out of the preparation that these guys are putting in. So that's overall, that is my analysis of Tennessee. Couldn't be happier with the win. I lost my mind while I was there, lost my mind and lost my voice, and was lucky to be around some like really cool fans in our area too. But yeah, I don't know. It's still surreal right now. I'm thankful that I can have a fun team to watch this year. Can we keep it up in future years? I don't know, but I'm living in the moment right now. Go Vols. But yeah, curious to hear y'all's thoughts on the win, not just about Tennessee, but also Alabama and what the future looks like as we go down the road here.
Well, thanks for that in-depth analysis there, Peyton. And as somebody, I've had a couple of those moments. I mean, I have had it with MSU going to the Little Giants game where they beat Alabama on, or not Notre Dame on the fake field goal, and then the next year after that, I got to be at the Hail Mary as the clock expired game against Wisconsin, and those are memories that nothing can top that in the sports world when you're actually in person to be able to experience that. So the fact that he got to be there for that, I was super happy for him. I didn't get to watch the game in its entirety because MSU was playing, and MSU was, which I'll get to that in a minute, was in a close game in overtime with Wisconsin, and season depended on that game being won. And so I had to keep going back in between, but I was able to go back and forth just in time to be able to get back to see. I saw the throw, saw the timeout, got to go back to my game. Then I got to come back as my game ended and go right to see him line up to kick the field goal and see it go through the goalposts. And as excited as I was that my team won, I was way more happy for Peyton in that moment, and just knowing what he's experiencing, being there in that moment when your team has done something amazing like that, and that fan. And again, I am critical of many times when fans rush the field. Am I not? Have we not talked about this on shows before? How much I hate it when teams unjustly rush the field. To all those that want to know, if you want an example of a time that it is appropriate to rush the field, that is it. So much so that your university gets fined $100,000 from the NCAA.
How about the goalpost too? And then
that's
they,
what it
and
was
then,
more. Yeah,
they set up the fund, right? And they ask for donations to redo that.
Yep.
As if they don't have the funds,
right? Yeah, then they don't have a couple $1 billion in endowment. Yeah,
they made a ton of money off of that goalpost being torn down.
Oh yeah, alms for the poor, please. Yeah, well, and I wanted to go over a few things that Peyton had mentioned here. So one of which was the defensive side of the ball for Tennessee. Really, when I look at just the overall defensive stats for defense in the country, Tennessee is ranked pretty low, especially their pass defense. Their pass defense is one of the worst in the entire country. I think they're bottom 8 in the country, which, I mean, that's not good. So that's why I bring that up. I mean, it showed up again. Obviously, Bryce Young is a great quarterback, so he wound up with 455 yards. 2 touchdowns in the game here against Tennessee. But the other thing here, though, is it's interesting. Their rush defense is towards the top half of college football, which maybe that's because the teams know they can throw on them, so they stick with throwing the football. But Gibbs actually had a pretty good game against the Vols, 3 touchdowns, over 100 yards rushing, averaged over 4.5 yards a carry. This was just a shootout, and that's what it turned into.
Teams can throw on him, yes, but Alabama's not teams either. Like that's
correct.
Very good at throwing the ball,
so. Right? But and that kind of goes into this isn't the first time it's happened. It's been happening all season. So that's why I have a little bit of hesitation with making them the outright favorite. I want to so bad because, I mean, obviously, I want it for Peyton.
Story.
You know, Peyton, absolutely.
Absolutely, it's a fun story for college football in general. Having this Tennessee team doing this,
it really is, because when Tennessee is one of those blue blood teams. When they're good, it's good for college football. So, I think this was a massive win for them. They finally got the monkey off their back a little bit with getting past Alabama. So I am really interested to see how the game against Georgia goes. I know they have Kentucky first. Georgia's defense is much better, in my opinion, than Alabama's. Now, it'll be interesting to see if Georgia's more or less inept offense will be good against Tennessee's defense. I think that's going to be the story of the game. But if they can get past Georgia, I don't really see another team knocking them off. I told Peyton I feel like the Kentucky game could be a trap game, though. That's the one that I'm circling that could potentially be a trap game for Tennessee. And that really comes down to coaching, right? It's, hey, we're taking this game by game. You got to focus on Kentucky first before we take on Georgia, the defending national champions. So, yeah, I'm interested to see how they do the rest of the year. I'm rooting for Tennessee. I think that it would be really cool if they made the college football playoff. And, I mean, right now, I have them in there. But, yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
If they all finish with one loss,
chaos.
Which actually, I don't know that. Actually, now I don't think that's possible. Actually, because Georgia, they're different divisions, right? That's right. One of them, either Georgia or either Tennessee or Alabama, would face Georgia in the championship again.
Right.
So take that back. Regardless, still.
However, no, that's not necessary. So let's say Tennessee beats Georgia. And then Tennessee plays Georgia in the SEC championship game and loses to Georgia. Then you would have both of them would have only had one loss to each other. And then Alabama has one loss. Does Alabama still play Georgia this year as well? I'm not sure. I have to look at their schedule.
I don't think they do. No, they don't.
So if they don't, then yeah, all three of them could have hypothetically.
Could what?
Who do you keep
on one loss?
And what does that mean?
I don't know. That would be
definitely hypothetical, but that's situation. I know there'd be controversy galore, but I don't know honestly how you could make an argument to keep, if that's how that pans out, that all three finish with one loss and all those losses are within that same group. I don't know how you keep any of those three out of the playoff. I don't know how you'd argue that those aren't the three.
Well, the one that didn't get it to the SEC championship game. There's one reason, but I don't think we have to worry about this. I don't know. There's no way. There's no way. Also, even if there are one loss, there's no way they'll make it.
It also depends on how all the other teams in their conferences do as well. You know, if Clemson takes care of business and they go undefeated the rest of the season, if Ohio State goes undefeated the rest of the season, or even Michigan, then I think
don't say
I think it takes care of itself in that way. So, you know, I don't see anyone from the Big 12 making it. I mean, TCU potentially they've looked the best so far out of the Big 12, but
the USC loss hurts in the Pac-12, but UCLA is still undefeated. So if they get past USC, you know, there's still
hope.
There,
yeah, UCLA still has hope, but I don't know. I feel like I think someone's going to knock them off. I feel like either USC potentially is going to knock them off, but we'll get to there.
To go back to the game real quick, one thing that Peyton didn't mention, he didn't bring up the offensive coordinator Alex Golish at all. He kept crediting it to Heupel and Hendon Hooker together and their system. I don't know. I think you're kind of passing by Alex Golish and his scheme and the way that he's been play calling.
Who will be a candidate for a head coach next year.
Yeah, I mean, man,
100%.
This has shades of the 2019 LSU team. I don't think they're as talented, you know, maybe on the outside, or they definitely have the offensive line. And Hendon Hooker is kind of playing at that Joe Burrow level where he's, you know, in the Heisman candidate. But they're kind of playing in that 2019 LSU sphere, which is kind of widely regarded as maybe the best offense in college football, potentially, you know, one of the best seasons in college football, specifically in the last 20 years. So I think that's pretty cool to see. And I think Alex Golish has to get some credit. I was listening to Trent Dilfer kind of break it down because he's coaching down in Tennessee, so he's kind of very familiar with a lot of these guys. And he's saying just the scheme that Golish has been able to put together, kind of the long game, the deep game, along with that short game and the run offense. It's kind of like a 3-tier RPO system, which is very unique. And it forced Nick Saban and that defense to do things that they didn't want to, right? So that, they didn't want that the wide receiver to have 5 touchdowns on 6 catches and the deep ball to continue to beat them, but they were forced in that way, and that was the scheme. And credit to the offensive line because they were nasty. So I think you got to give the offensive coordinator a bit more credit there. I know Peyton went for 30 minutes, didn't mention his name once, just had to give him a little bit of a shout out there.
That's funny. Yeah, I think this Tennessee team is very good, and I really looking at the schedule. I think they're likely that as long as they don't fall apart and have a huge letdown coming in the next couple of weeks before you get to the Georgia, it's very likely this team finishes just the one loss to Georgia, and then faces them again probably more likely in the SEC championship at that point in time. So definitely a really good team, has a lot to play for moving forward. I will the only thing that I will critique on Peyton's comment there is about the 4 teams that they beat that were ranked. Not to take away from it, because you beat who you beat when you play them. Alabama is the only team of those 4 teams who is still currently ranked. Yes, LSU is on the verge, and who was the other one? LSU's on the verge of still being back in, and then Pitt still potentially could. But it's a stat. You can still claim it, Peyton. Not to discredit it, and just
Can I bring up one more interesting thing in just kind of the Heisman talk of how Hendon Hooker's season has gone? Obviously I'm more of the NFL guy. Where do you guys think, his age is definitely a factor, but I mean, if he keeps playing like this, we don't normally see Heisman candidates or potentially a Heisman winner usually fall out of the first round coming out, right? Maybe this is a question for Peyton eventually, but do you guys think that, his pro status or his scouting combine there, do you think there's any chance he could actually squeeze into the first round this way? Because we haven't seen somebody this old go in the first round since maybe Brandon Weeden. I mean, the guy's going to be 25 probably at the time of the draft.
Not this old, but look, it's.
I mean, Joe Burrow was older. Joe Burrow was a lot older.
I was going to say it's the Joe Burrow. It's a similar situation to Joe Burrow. Didn't have a lot of talk leading up to his senior year, and then senior year he just explodes, and then I think
Hooker is 1 year older at that point. So it's interesting because we always see these risers and the guys who come out last year, top 3 in Heisman voting. Amazing
Kenneth
year.
Walker should have been top.
Yeah, and now look at him in the NFL and high draft pick. But it's interesting because I'm curious to see if NFL teams would bite on that in the back of the first round because of his age.
Well, and he has the size that I think NFL teams look for. I mean, he's 6'4", almost 220. So he's got good size to him. He's shown he can make big-time throws, and he also has the athleticism to extend plays. I think as far as a prospect, the way that he's playing this year, he's 70% with his passes. I fully believe that he could potentially be a first-round pick, yes, just based upon how he's played and, additionally with his size and his intangibles. So I think teams will look at that for sure. I think he'll need a good pro day, but I certainly think he could get into the later half of the first round.
Absolutely. Well, as we're speaking on NFL and potential draft picks, I'll use this to segue into me talking about my Michigan State Spartans and Saturday, getting the monkey off the back end in the 4-game losing streak against the Wisconsin Badgers. And so why I make that as a transition, Jacoby Wyndham, outside of our punter, who is probably going to finish the season as the best punter in college football, Jacoby Wyndham has been an absolute beast. Had another forced fumble on Saturday. Now he leads the country in 6 forced turnovers, has 37 tackles, 5.5 sacks, and 1 fumble recovery and 1 interception through 6 games. So when he was at UNLV, his entire time he was there, he only had 5 he only had I can't remember what it was. It was way less than he only had 10. Yeah, I can't find the stat. It was significantly less than his entire time at UNLV, even though he was a good player at UNLV. I think he's one that's going to be the most. He's going to be the face of the draft class for this Michigan State team for the most part. Why I was excited about that coming in is that Michigan State was finally able to make some changes this week on defense. We're able to get Xavier Henderson, who is the captain of that MSU defense, having him back on the field makes a huge difference. Just the entire energy of the team, both offensively and defensively. They didn't look flat at all this week. It was always, we're going to keep playing, keep chopping, and having it out there. And you finally had that leader on that defense and that leader on that team on the field for the first time since week 1 that was able to call out players when they made mistakes. And it's the guy who can call people out because he has the respect of everybody on the field, and they know to be able to listen to that and go with what it is. So now it was Wisconsin, who's not a very good team. Graham Mertz by no means is a good quarterback. However, the week before they did put up 500 plus on Northwestern, and I think we're a worse defense. We've been a worse defense than Northwestern's defense so far this year. So the fact that we only hold them to 220 some yards, I'm going to take that as an accomplishment. Maybe it doesn't save the season, but it is a program win in the sense that it shows you overcoming adversity and the fact that you still have room to grow and go from here when you know you can get the healthy players in. It keeps your ability to be able to look to the future alive. You lose this game and then hate in a week and a half have to play at that crap school down the road and probably going to get beat because I hate it. They're pretty darn good and they match up really. It's one of those, like, it was in a rivalry games. I've been talking to people and they're like, well, you never know. I'm like, you're right. You never do know. And in a rivalry game, a lot can go either way. However, in case we don't get to record next week, I'll say this now. U of M has the matchups on this Michigan State team as far as where their strengths will expose our weaknesses very badly. And that's just take the rivalry and everything out of it, just looking at the way things look. That's not a very hopeful thing to go in. And I don't think that a rivalry and getting amped up can make up for that big of a difference. I hope to God I'm wrong. I would love to have another 2020 upset when we were supposed to get absolutely killed. I have to go back probably to 1990, the last time I think MSU team this bad beat this good of a Michigan team. It could happen. I just don't have a lot of faith that I don't have a lot of hope that it does. I have all the faith in the world. I don't have a lot of belief. I have all the faith in the world, though. I'll hold that on there.
Well, you can hold on. You can hold on to the you never know what can happen in a rivalry game. So
exactly, that's what I hope for. To finish up on there, again, really happy with the team. I thought the team played a lot better across the board. On defense was much improved. Peyton Thorne, who I've been very critical of the last few weeks on the show and talked about it. Peyton Thorne looked a lot better. He was 21 for 28, 265, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, no turnovers. Having Reed be completely healthy, I think, gave him a lot of confidence back to be able to know to take those shots. And watch that against Michigan. I think you'll see MSU play that same game. Well, they'll take Mosley, Reed, and Coleman, and they will just decide to try and attack those corners against Michigan. That's going to be the only hope. So that on a negative side, it was penalties that gave us a little bit of a hurt. And now, did either of you two, did you see the end of my game at all or go back and watch any of it or know what happens in the least bit?
No, I didn't.
I did not.
So it didn't go into overtime. However, so I'm going to give you the rundown of the play-by-play of before we go into overtime. I'm going to read off this description without you seeing the video. Tell me if you can figure out why I would be upset. So on 3rd and 8, Wisconsin 44, Peyton Thorne run for 8 yards to the Wisconsin 35 for a first down. Michigan State at this point in time has 2 timeouts. With 34 seconds left, Mel Tucker takes 1, leaving us with 1 timeout. 1st and 10 at Wisconsin 36 with 34 seconds left. Elijah Collins run for 3 yards to the Wisconsin 33. Timeout Michigan State with 27 seconds left on the clock. No more timeouts. It is now 2nd and 7. Elijah Collins run to the 5 yards of Wisconsin 28. 27 seconds left. 3rd and 2. Peyton Thorne pass complete to Jaden Reed for a 1-yard loss at the Wisconsin 29. Okay.
Please, don't tell me you spiked it.
You now have You don't. It's now fourth down,
No,
fourth and 3.
you gotta run out
you
the
don't-
field goal unit real
Yep.
quick.
You have to run out the field goal unit with 21 seconds ish left on the clock. Left-footed kicker. Thorne's pass was I think it was a screen or it was a throw out to Reed on the right-hand side of the field. Left-footed kicker. Setting you up for disaster at that point in time for that. So going back to the beginning of this thing on that third down when Peyton Thorne ran for the first down, college football, the clock stops.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you taking a timeout there? Why do you not have the notion in your mind to know before that play goes in that you've called 2 plays into Thorne to not have to call a timeout in that position, or that you burn one of the you're tied, so at this point in time you're only playing for the win. Burn one of your downs and spike the ball.
Agree. I do agree with that. Yeah,
They
should have spiked. Right, should have spiked it there to keep one of the timeouts.
So that's coaching error number 1, in my opinion, on either one of those. Either you have 2 plays going in on that third down to give Thorne the chance, or you're going to spike it when he gets the first down and save the timeout. That's not the most outrageous thing that could have been bad. The next thing is bad is when you take on second down when there's still 33 seconds left on the clock, you're burning your third timeout when you know you're going to just have to kick a field goal to win.
Right.
That's on Mel Tucker, and that makes me scratch my head. And I trust Mel, but that's one of those things that cannot happen long term. Like that's not good.
That's
and
communication.
The next blunder is on Jay Johnson. When you call in a play after that, you call in a pass play that you know if you don't get the first down, you don't have time to stop the clock and to get your field goal unit out onto the play, and you're throwing it to the right side of the field to put your left-footed kicker in a position that doesn't want to kick. It's to rush out there. A kicker who has not kicked a field goal yet at Michigan State because he just got replaced as a transfer from Auburn this week. It was his first game he was starting, and he's only kicked extra points to this point in time in the game. What happens? Bad snap. Kicker doesn't even get a chance to kick at it because they got rushed out there. Ball gets intercepted. Time of possession is over. Luckily, go into overtime when it all's forgiven because it ends in a win. But just saying, that did not make me very happy, even though we got the win. And it's like, man, this is like John L. Smith against Ohio State. Coaches rushing him out on the field in 05. Almost going back to that. I'm like, please do not turn into that.
Yeah.
That's just learning. That'll be learning from the coaches. Mel Tucker's a young coach, so I'm sure that'll be something that he learns.
It's one of those things that it's a learning experience because it's a win. But
exactly,
it'd be a bigger story if the game ended up a loss in that way. Then it's a story, and then it's not really just a learning curve. It's a start questioning game management in a way. But at least, like you said, Kyle, they pull out the win, and it is, you can learn a lot more through a win than you should through a loss usually. So
in that case, when you've lost 4 in a row before, and so now 3-4 is a lot better than, and it shouldn't sound like it, but 3-4 sounds a lot better than 2-5. Got to say that. And real hard schedule left at Michigan, at number 18 Illinois, home against Rutgers, home against Indiana, and then to finish out number 16 Penn State. So can they get to 6 wins? Probably not. Just with that schedule that's left, that's a pretty tall ask. But hey, you can sneak a win out of one of those 3 and then beat the 2 teams that you should beat. Sure, got the chance to play in a bowl game. So it'll at least save the season for this point in time and still give something to be able to play for. You know, you still have hope to be able to go towards something. So Jared, give us a little rundown on Clemson for what things are looking like.
Yeah, good win. Always a good win going down to Tallahassee, beating Florida State. Honestly, we looked pretty dominant for most of the game. It wound up being a little bit close towards the end, a little close for my comfort. And honestly, that was something that I was not happy about. But overall, I mean, throughout the game, we just looked like the better team. DJ played a lot better. He's just continued to put together a really nice season this year. I told Peyton when I gave him a call after the game, I let him know that, hey, DJ actually missed a couple throws that were touchdowns in the first half. Honestly, they were pretty wide open. So hopefully that's something that they see in the film and say, hey, this is there. with these coverage and these packages. So hopefully it's something they can clean up. But defensively looked really, really strong all the way through until really the back half of the fourth quarter. And I feel like we just kind of were playing a prevent type defense and let them back into the game. So they had a lack of urgency, it seemed. And that's not really something that Dabo stands for. He was certainly not happy about that after the game. The players actually held a players-only meeting yesterday. So I'm hopeful that they can get it in gear a little bit because the defense has underperformed ever since the beginning of the season. They've underperformed here. So I'm hoping that they can get back on track because if they can, then Clemson's going to be a very tough team to beat for anybody because we're very balanced both offensively and pretty well defensively too. So I'm excited for the rest of the year. Big game this week in Death Valley against Syracuse. This is actually the first time ever that in Death Valley in the 81 years that Death Valley's been in existence that two teams through week 6 are undefeated playing in Death Valley. So that's did not know that. Pretty cool stat, and it's Syracuse of all teams. So we'll see how for real Syracuse is. I know their schedule hasn't been all that great, but I feel pretty confident going into this week. So we'll see.
Okay, yeah, I think still a lot of season left for you, and honestly, I had questions before the season come in that you guys would be able to win the ACC this year. I think you're pretty well set poised to be able to win the ACC at this point in time. ACC has been a little bit of a letdown outside of Clemson being the most consistent team. I mean, there's been some good teams in it, but it's not. I think you're definitely the strongest on there. Before we transition into talk to Liberty, we'll definitely want to do that. Let's talk Heisman real quick because I want to use the Liberty game to transition into our picks because that'll be one of our first ones that we talk about. So through this week, any changes for anybody? Anybody want to do anything? Anything different?
I'm sticking with CJ Stroud. I still think he is the slight favorite, maybe a little bit more than slight favorite. I'm sure Peyton's going to keep Hendon Hooker. He might have vaulted up to number 2, probably definitely top 3 at this point. So, and then just Christian has Caleb, right? Caleb Williams, I think.
Caleb Williams, yep.
I am going to change. Unfortunately, Will Rogers lost this week, which plummeted his odds of potentially winning. He has had a fantastic year so far. He's still putting up big time numbers, but Mississippi State's just not going to be in any relevance at this point. So I am going to switch.
And they have to play Bama this week. So
yeah. I'm going to switch to Corum. Unfortunately, Kyle. I mean, it's a running back, but I mean, he's fourth.
Don't get me wrong. Like I hate Michigan. I like Blake Corum as a player outside the uniform. I like Blake Corum, and he's tough. And I do find it ironic the fact that Michigan fans give credit for Blake Corum being a Heisman candidate, but then discredited last year K9 all season long as not being when they're
K9
exactly.
Still
has better numbers last year than what Blake Corum has had this year. That's not taken away. I think Blake Corum very much is deserving to be in the conversation. And while I don't pick him, it's an understandable pick. I don't think he'll win it because I think it's going to be one of those 3 quarterbacks. I don't think no matter how good he does, and he'd have to put up a huge game against Ohio State, I think, to be able to have a chance to actually win it.
Caleb Williams loses another game, and he's probably out of the race. Regardless, I mean, he's had a good season, but again, even Will Rogers, I feel like has had a better year putting up numbers, in my opinion. But
I think while I hate the Wolverines and I got to give a hard time for it, I think that's a good pick for who's available, Jared.
It is. I'll give you the odds real quick because Corum has jumped up to 4th in odds, so definitely worth taking. Stroud is the favorite. Hendon Hooker at 2nd at plus 500. Caleb Williams at 3rd.
Oh, Williams at 3rd.
Yeah, he is still 3rd.
Still. Yeah.
I don't agree with that.
Yeah, that's a little. I mean,
I know Bryce Young was hurt there and out for a week, but even with how Bryce Young played against Tennessee in that atmosphere on the road, that still shows him as a Heisman caliber employee. And if he's able to leave that team to win out the rest of the season, he is still very much. I don't think you can go away from Stroud, Hooker, and Young as being the 3 best players in college football if things play out the way we think they're going to. I don't.
Yeah. Young is right behind Corum, so he's 5th in odds. And then Sixth, Dorian Thompson-Robinson. I mean, if UCLA continues to maybe stay
That's
undefeated,
true.
he could play himself into that conversation as well. And then surprisingly, DJ's right after that, seventh in odds.
That's very, very surprising. It's literally just because we're
team undefeated.
Well, yeah, it's because we're undefeated. We're going to be in relevance. That's literally the only reason. He hasn't put up a Heisman caliber season, in my opinion. But
to be honest, in his defense, outside of the players that we've named, there's not a lot of superstar standout players in college football this year. Outside of that, there's good players in the room, but not Heisman.
Especially a
Martinez is top 10. Yeah, there's no receivers.
Which is very interesting. For as high powered as these offenses are, the fact that no wide receivers are on this list is baffling. I'm honestly surprised that Hyatt didn't get some more love after this week. I mean, 5 touchdowns, over 200 yards against Bama, and that was something else. I was very surprised.
Georgia, he's definitely there.
Well, I was very surprised that they didn't start doubling him, because he destroyed them. I was like, why are they not putting a safety over top of him and shadowing him specifically? Like, take him out of the game. Don't let him beat you.
Yeah, I don't see any receivers in the top 15 of odds, maybe even the top 20 here. The only other, non-quarterbacks, Will Anderson's still kind of hovering around, the 15 mark.
It's just a weird year in college football in general. Tennessee's number 3. It's odd. It's weird. We're not used to seeing this in a long time.
Yep.
So, all right. Well, let's transition. Talk a little bit of Liberty Flames football. A little bit of a scare this weekend. I didn't get to watch a lot of the game. I watched some of it going back between Tennessee, Michigan State, and switching over to that game. I was happy to know they were able to pull it out and win by a point against Garber Webb, who's only won 2 games. Did you
say garbage web?
I said Garber Webb. Gardner Webb is what I meant to say. Garber is a high school here in Michigan. That was in my mind. Yes, Gardner Webb. I think it simply lays down to this: we have to have better quarterback play starting next week. It either has to be Charlie or.
Well, it has to be Charlie, because Salter's not going to be ready.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be Charlie.
It cannot be Jonathan Bennett.
No.
It cannot be Jonathan Bennett. That he's just not capable of doing what the offense needs to be able to go forward. And it's amazing what a difference is when Salter's in there. At this point in time, if Salter was healthy, I think you almost go Salter even over Bennett or over Charlie Brewer. But it's those two, I think, make this offense so much better and give the chance for them to be able to do things. And that's going to have to be the difference next week playing against BYU.
Good problem to have, though, that you have 2 quarterbacks that you feel like you can start. I think Charlie can just get them
eventually.
Right. No, that's what I mean. So that we have depth there, which is good. So I feel like, now that Charlie is healthy, I think he can get the ball to the playmakers, and we can certainly be competitive in this game against BYU. This is a big matchup for us.
Yeah, and you mentioned that it was mainly quarterback play, and Jonathan Bennett did not play good at all. This was a bad game all around. I mean, especially on offense, as far as Hugh Freeze did not call a good game. The play calling was bad down the stretch. If you have a quarterback like Jonathan Bennett in there, you think you'd lean on your multitude of running backs. Day-Day Hunter only gets 9 carries, and he gets 76 yards with that.
That tells you something.
You got to give the guy the ball more, especially when you're leaning on your third-string quarterback who's struggling, especially with turnovers. So I think that's an issue. Not long-term, but that was an issue in this game. So lucky they squeezed through that win, but the play calling has to be better next week or this upcoming week with that quarterback play as an upgrade, and hopefully Brewer's healthy enough. But, if you want to beat the big dogs, you got to play. And maybe this was just a trap game, right? They were looking ahead. They're saving their creativity for BYU and then Arkansas. And that could be it, right? Save your creativity. Let's walk through and, oh, wait, this game's a little harder than we thought because we have our third string quarterback. That could be some of it, but things do need to improve.
I think defense had a little bit of a – I don't want to say necessarily shaky is the right word. Defense had a little bit of – they didn't look the best they've looked all season. We'll just say that. It was a little bit of a down game compared to what they had been capable of doing in other games. Hopefully that steps up next week. As moving to our first pick here, so Liberty hosting a Power 5 school again here at home in Brigham Young University Cougars. This is the Storm Mormons coming to play the Baptists. So definitely want to win this game for many reasons. Give more hype for the program, help them to go through, beating a Power 5 team at home, giving you the chance to potentially beat 2 Power 5 teams at home in the season, and maybe 3 if they can beat Arkansas next week on the road. This is the start of making that, to be able to get some recognition and make things happen for the program before forward. Have to be able to have it. I'm gonna give Liberty the win. I was a little bit on the fence going back and forth with just how they looked last week and things. I think that place is going to be rocking this Saturday.
They set a record.
I think it'll be a record.
Yeah,
I agree.
It should be the record because the record right now is still 2015 against Montana State when the stadium sat 5,000 people less than it seats now. So if you can max that stadium out at 25,000. And it's seating alone, then have more standing room in the cabana seating area down there, it should cap out to 20. I would hope 27, 28,000 is what I hope for. And then a couple of weeks when we host Tech, that's probably going to be closer to 30, be my guess. So yes, it should. And that's why I'm being at home, hopefully going to be a loud atmosphere. Williams Stadium can get rocking. Give me the Flames.
My heart wants to pick Liberty. I know Charlie Brewer's coming back from injury. It's his first game back. BYU's had a brutal schedule. Give me the Flames. Why not? I'll go with Liberty. I'll take Liberty here. They've just been playing good football. I know that they had a close one against Gardner-Webb, but didn't have a starter in there. So overall, as a team, they've played well all season long. I like them to stand up to this challenge and get a big program win for us.
I want Liberty to get this win as well. My heart says Liberty should get this win at home. They're going to pull out all the stops, but we keep a record here. I'm going to try to be as unbiased as possible, and I think the injuries are just too much. Brewer coming back, first game, hand injury. We barely got to see him, so we don't even know what the offense looks like with him. He's obviously not as dynamic as Hugh Freeze and his successful offenses have been the past few years. I think BYU does get this done, but I would lean the under. The over-under is at like 58.5 or 58 or so. I don't know. I don't like Jaron Hall. I think this guy's been so up and down all year. I just think Liberty might come off to a slow start on offense, and it might be too much to overcome. But I think the under is probably a good play here, but I think BYU might get the win, unfortunately. That's my unbiased pick.
All right. I respect it. We'll see what the other two fellows pick here. So, Thomas, take us off with number 20, Texas, traveling to take on the number Oklahoma State Longhorn, or the Longhorns taking on Oklahoma State Cowboys. As a somewhat pseudo Longhorns fan, what do you got?
Yeah, well, honestly, I think Texas is playing some really good football, and it was an interesting game last week against Iowa State where they had to grind it out and have almost a little bit of a comeback win, but they did get the win. So that's 3 straight wins against West Virginia, Oklahoma, and then Iowa State. And then you're looking at the Oklahoma State Cowboys coming in here, coming off that double overtime loss against TCU, which is a bit of a battle. And they've struggled the last couple of weeks. I know everybody, they're still number 11. They were a top 10 before that, but they've struggled against Baylor. They struggled against Texas Tech. So they were on the verge of kind of teetering around a loss here, and then eventually got that against TCU. But ever since Quinn Ewers is back, the offense is humming for Texas. We've said this in the past that, Quinn Ewers never got hurt, probably won the Alabama game. They'd probably beat Texas Tech, and they'd probably be 6-1 or 7-0 right now, and probably a top 10 team. He is healthy. The offense is very special, and they're 6.5-point favorites here. So give me Texas.
Now, this is a tough pick on this game going between those. Like I said, they did struggle last week against Iowa State. However, Iowa State, while they're an inconsistent team, they still are a very well coached team with Campbell there. So
still a very good defense.
Still very good defense at Iowa State. And again, Oklahoma State struggling last week with TCU. TCU is a good team. I don't think that Oklahoma State should have lost that game. They had a lead that they blew and just were able to tighten the screws up and made mistakes. And I think that Mike Gundy is a better coach to allow those things to happen more than one time. Hard pick, but I'm deciding right now. I'm going to go with Mike Gundy and Oklahoma State. Just a little bit because
can hold. Because defense advantage is going to go to Texas. We know they're a lot faster and athletic. The offense is probably an advantage to Texas as well. So you're basically taking this.
I'm gonna go Texas. You talked me out of it.
All right,
if I get it wrong though.
Well, so your argument that you were making was the coaching advantage, right? Which I would probably agree with you. But I think that might be the only advantage.
Yeah.
Sanders is a good quarterback for Oklahoma State, but he's they have him as a Heisman hopeful still, even though they lost. However, I like Texas as well. I think they're a totally different team with Ewers. They just looked wonderful with him at the helm, and Oklahoma State coming off that loss to TCU, a little deflating, but I think Texas gets this win. This is kind of when I feel like turn the corner, and this is when Texas becomes Texas again. So I like Ewers in this game.
I will say, Sark, you better come out strong. Sark, this is you want to keep this job. You got it. These are the games you got to win. So
it's got to happen.
Yeah, you got to have this one.
All right, Jared, kick us off for UCLA at number 9 UCLA taking on number 10 Oregon Ducks in Eugene.
Yeah, so after, of course, Oregon got shellacked by Georgia in that first opening game, they've looked a lot better throughout the season. So this is an interesting matchup. We talked about UCLA's quarterback, now a Heisman hopeful. UCLA is a bit of a surprise this year too. With this being at Oregon, I like Oregon to win this game. I feel like they're going to have a little more offensively, and I just think they take care of business at home. So I like Oregon. Give me Oregon.
I'm going to go with you as well, Jeffers. I'm going to go Oregon. This is a hard game to pick across the board. I think UCLA is a very good team, and I'm not going to be surprised at all if Chip Kelly gets the win going up to Eugene. But traveling to Eugene, Oregon's been a much better defensive team than they were against Georgia in week one. And Georgia has not been that great of an offensive team since then. But Georgia has definitely picked it up and has improved a lot, I think, as the season has gone on here. And I think traveling to Eugene is an ask for anybody, especially a young team in UCLA. So, yeah, give me the Ducks.
This is a tough one, but give me Chip Kelly. Give me UCLA. I think coming off of a bye, that extra week will serve Chip Kelly and the offense a little bit more. I think he's going to get that creative juices flowing. He's going to be hyped up for this game. I think the offense is going to come out special with that extra week. And I just think the resume's been a little bit better. They've had a couple of harder games and impressed in those. While Oregon's kind of had a couple of walkovers. Obviously the BYU game over a month ago was an impressive win, but since then it's been a little bit easy riding. So I think UCLA is a little bit more battle tested for this in the last couple of weeks at least.
All right, next we have Lane Kiffin traveling to Death Valley to take on LSU and Brian Kelly. I don't have a whole lot to say about this. Give me Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss. I think somewhat fairly easily as well too. I don't believe in Brian Kelly still. I don't believe in this LSU team. I think Ole Miss is a very well coached team, a very well talented team, and I don't think this is going to be that close. Give me the Ole Miss Rebels.
LSU.
All right.
At home. It's a very good Ole Miss offense, but forget it. The defense is bad. They gave up 34 points to Auburn last week. This Ole Miss defense is going to struggle, and like you said, it's at LSU. Give me LSU.
I like that, Thomas. Honestly, I'm going to go with LSU as well. I feel like Ole Miss has played a little bit tight here these last few weeks. I just feel like LSU is going to pull out this win. So I think especially in Baton Rouge, they're tough there.
All right. Let's finish it off for another Big 12 matchup. Number 17, Kansas State taking on number 8, Texas Christian University Horned Frogs. Jared, who you got?
TCU, the battle of the purple teams. I'm going with the Horned Frogs. They've looked really good these last few weeks. Beat Oklahoma State last week. They're kind of a sleeper team for the playoffs potentially. So, give me TCU.
Thomas?
Yeah, I'll stick with TCU as well. Dugan's playing really good. I like the way that they're playing. This is now their 4th straight ranked opponent at the time. So that is very interesting. We'll see if they get fatigued there, but I think TCU is pretty legit, especially on that offensive game.
So TCU. I was tempted to go here with Kansas State. I wouldn't be surprised if we get this wrong, and I kind of want to play after having an awful last week in picks, both in NFL and in college. Kind of wanted to go against the grain a little bit, have a chance to be able to pick some of my spots back up here, but I don't think I'm willing to take the risk on this one. I think TCU is just a little bit more of a, especially it's the offenses in the Big 12, and I think they're just the better offense there. So give me the Horned Frogs. Well, that'll do it for the 3 of our picks. Let's turn it over to Christian and Peyton for theirs.
What's good? Here with my Week 8 college football picks. Last week we went 5-0. Don't look now. Somebody's back in the lead in the standings, so naturally I'm going to go 0-5 this week, but we'll see what happens. First of all, Texas, Oklahoma State. Good game, really good game. I think Oklahoma State, they are probably going to be looked down upon after the loss last week, but, they're still a very good team. However, I am going to give the advantage to Texas and Quinn Ewers, so I'm going to go with Texas in that one. UCLA and Oregon. UCLA, they've played good teams, but I don't think they've actually been tested. They've had one game on the road all season. Add in Bo Nix. Bo Nix season in full effect at home, and you got to go Oregon in this game. Ole Miss and LSU. I'm going to go LSU. Simply based on the line, they're favored by 2. This is a spot where you would think for sure Ole Miss is going to win, but based on that line, that is telling me that LSU is going to come out victorious. So give me LSU in that one. Kansas State, TCU. I think this could be upset material. Kansas State is sneakily good. However, I want to ride this TCU bandwagon until the wheels fall off. And 2, everybody else so far has TCU. And so for strategy's sake, I'm going to take TCU. Finally, BYU at Liberty. The smart play is just to be safe and take BYU. But got to be the homer. I'd love to be wrong with that thinking. So we're going to go Liberty. And if I'm wrong, so be it.
All right. If I'm looking at my college picks here, some interesting games. So BYU Liberty, I'm going to go with Liberty. The Liberty defense has been one of the better teams, statistically speaking, for certain items in the country. So, we don't play the greatest of teams in our schedule. I get that, but I think that the Liberty defense is really going to slow down BYU. You look at BYU against, who was it, Baylor, I think, I mean, their offense has really struggled at times. It took a while for them to get moving against Notre Dame. Notre Dame is not a good team this year. So I'm going to lean on the Liberty defense stifling BYU and Liberty being able to win that game at home too. Kansas State, TCU. Give me TCU. I picked against TCU last week after watching their performance against Kansas. They took the ship and they had to right it, and they certainly did. So I'm not going to pick against TCU this time, even though Kansas State is interesting with Martinez, but I'm still going TCU at home. Ole Miss, LSU. Give me Ole Miss. I think LSU, the description of their team this year that best fits them is inconsistent. They had a very productive week last week, but I don't think it continues. I think Ole Miss on the road against LSU. Ole Miss, I think they have Alabama in the back of their minds, and they're thinking, when we play them, we could be undefeated, or not undefeated. We could be, kind of deciding that side of who goes to the SEC championship as well. So, I think Ole Miss is very focused right now. Lane Kiffin he's doing a lot with an inexperienced Jackson Dart, and Jackson Dart, kind of like Hooker and Heupel. I think Dart and Kiffin are a really good combination. UCLA, Oregon. By rankings, Oregon is the underdog. I don't know how we treat that since Oregon's playing at home. Give me the Ducks at home. Tough to go into Oregon, and I think they've really hit their stride after that early loss to Georgia. Texas, Oklahoma State. I took some time, and I struggled with this one because Oklahoma State, they've looked really good here as the season has, really started to get some traction. Quinn Ewers, I think he'll be the X factor. I just think that he will pick apart the Oklahoma State defense. I think he's got tremendous arm talent, but he's got great football IQ as well. So give me Texas on the road against Oklahoma State. Any of those I feel like I could see being different. I feel like they're more, in previous weeks I've commented that, these are really, really difficult games to pick just because they're so close. These aren't as close, but I still feel like they were tough to pick. So we'll see.
All right, Christian and Peyton, thanks for getting those in. Peyton, our Christian last week, he went 5-0. And now, even with him missing the first weeks in the win column, he is now at 20 wins. So he is right here with us. Jared, you are currently leading now 22-13. Me and Peyton are right behind you, or me and Thomas are right behind you at 21-14. Peyton, you are at 19-16. So it definitely tightened up there. And percentage-wise, though, it's all Christian. He's at 67% accuracy. So if you're going to listen to anybody on just straight up win-loss bets, college football, Christian's your guy, is what we've proven so far this year. So, all right, well, let's move on and talk about the National Football League. So Sunday, Dallas play at Philly. I didn't get to watch any football on Sunday, fellas, and I definitely didn't really do any recap on Monday because I was getting ready to drive. I had to work until 8 o'clock, and then I had to get packed and get ready to drive all the way up here to 13 and a half hours from Lynchburg to Gaylord, Michigan. I read your text, Jared. I actually got my game updates when I was driving back after the wedding in the middle of the night, 5 hours from Wilmington back to Lynchburg. I wasn't listening to the game because I couldn't find it anywhere on radio. And so I was getting the text read off to me as they would come in. So thank you for believing in my boys and having them at least have a little bit of a comeback from the 20-0 at first. I said last week that you ride Cooper Rush until there's a reason not to. Not that he's the better quarterback than – I never thought he was a better quarterback than Dak, but you don't make a change until you're fully ready to go to Dak. After last week, you got to make the changes as soon as as soon as Dak is ready.
He's clear.
That showed
He cleared today.
Dak's got to be back in. That's got to be happen to go forward. Again, from what I saw, and correct me if I'm wrong, from what I saw on the stat line, it looked like Dallas went away from the run game in the first part of the game and didn't go to it in the second. And what I said before was I got to keep running the ball well and doing what they're doing. And it didn't seem like they did that at first against Philly. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, they got away from it a little early because biggest reason was just because Philly was scoring. So they felt like they were having to throw the ball a little bit more, but
have more confidence that your defense is going to be able to figure it out and make the stops, which they did make against Philly for a long time.
Yes,
bad coaching. I want them gone.
Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness.
Oh man. Well, Thomas, you want to take away the Jets? How they looked against Green Bay?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, seriously. I had to watch this one on tape delay. I ended up coming late, got back home, watched the whole fourth quarter, then went back to watch the first three. Man, my wife thought it was a great idea to schedule a baby safety class at 1:00 on a Sunday. So that was what I had to do. But wow, what a win! Seriously, I was
not
nervous.
Baby safety.
That is not baby safety, right?
Taking away the dad's college football or NFL football is not baby safety.
That is how you increase anger and frustration, which is not baby safety. But I was nervous, and I turned my phone. I had to turn my phone off. I had to look like a good class student, so I wasn't really looking at my phone at all during the games. I had no idea what was going on. Rushed home, and I was surprised. Seriously, this was a full-out team win, coaching, defense, and run game, and a little bit of Zach Wilson when you needed him, especially that connection with Corey Davis, but. Defense. Wow, they are electric right now. They're playing like a top 10 defense in the league, and they have a top 10 run game in the league. So it's pretty exciting. We said in the past, Quinnen Williams is a beast. He's playing. He is the best defender on the team, and he's probably playing as the best defensive tackle in the league, which is the first thing we haven't been able to say that since before Aaron Donald, but he might be impacting the game thus far this year more than Aaron Donald has been impacting the game. So,
well, and you said he's the best defensive player on the team on a good defensive team. Like our defense, our defense is actually very talented. So
Sauce Gardner is playing at a Pro Bowl level.
Yes,
in his first 6 games, which is,
and so DJ Reed's playing really well too. So, yeah, I'm with you. I don't have too much to add, honestly. It was a full team win, top to bottom. I love the creativity on the offensive side of the ball. LaFleur he looks like he's grown. Yeah, he looks like he's growing into that offensive coordinator role really, really well. So, I'm excited, man. This is a good time to be a Jets fan right now.
I will say there's not a lot, but there's some skepticism or maybe some pullback on the Zach Wilson game. 10 for 18, 110 yards. I'm not worried. I'm not worried. They didn't need him, and when they did need him, he connected with the long pass to Corey Davis.
He's easing back into it too from his injury. So this is honestly his only second game, right?
Well, but we saw it with Pittsburgh. The comeback, when they've put the game on his shoulders, he's 3-0. He's 3-0 since he's
exactly.
Back. But when they put the game on his shoulders, when they needed him, he's stepped up and looked better this year than he has last year. They didn't need him this week, so I'm not worried about 110 yards and only 10 completions. It'll come when they need him.
I mean, it's pretty crazy. Some of the best teams in football right now are the New Jersey football teams and the New York
Jersey, baby.
So with that, Bills, I was able to. I knew that the Bills won because the wedding that I DJ'd. So this is my friend Tim, who is a huge Bills fan, lives in Wilmington. That's where his family is at. This was his sister's wedding. That's how they had the connection to be able to DJ this wedding. As soon as the wedding was at 4, the Bills game was at 4:30. Tim was actually the one to like present because his dad Tim was the officiant. He married his daughter and husband. Tim, in his speech before, said he was having a hard time getting composed with himself because emotional. He was like, I got to get composed. The Bills play at 4:30. He made the moment of that. And as soon as the wedding ceremony is over and they get ready for the reception and everything like that, he went and changed into his Bills jersey, and lots of his family was there. They were also all Bills fans, lots of them. So this was a like stereotypical, if you could see like the commercials of guys at a wedding watching football games. It was great because all during dinner they're watching the first half, and then he was so frustrated because they go up. What was it? They went up, and right with 15 seconds left in the first half, and then Mahomes is able to do exactly what he did in the playoff game and drive down the field in no time and set up to have the field goal to tie it to go into halftime. Kind of some situation there, but I knew how the game ended because all the guys during when I was doing my job in the dance party and getting the party going, there was like 8 guys standing in the corner around a phone watching it, to which I definitely called them out at the party with my said, hey, Bills fans in the corner, the party's over here. When that clock hits 0, I expect you on the dance floor. It was pretty fun. So that was my take on the Bills game.
That's pretty cool. That is pretty neat. Definitely the best game of the week, and a rematch of the playoffs last year and the game before that. I think the biggest takeaway is Josh Allen. He's probably the MVP, and he's playing amazing. And then obviously there's a little bit something off with the Kansas City offense, and for the first time in a couple of years, at the end of the game, I kind of felt like they weren't going to get it done, and they didn't. And Mahomes made the big error, which is uncharacteristic with the interception. But if Kelsey can't get open, there's a little bit of a struggle there. I think they'll be able to work through it. They might add somebody. They kind of did a restructure on Kelsey's salary right after this, so now they created some cap space for maybe a trade. Maybe it's Odell, but Josh Allen's the story. He played amazing, and he's the leading candidate for MVP. And then the defense. Props to the Bills defense, which looks, Leslie Frazier probably going to be head coach next year.
And he should be.
Bills defense is a separator between them and the Chiefs for the best team in the AFC.
Well, and the fact that their defense is so good and that Kansas City had a chance to win it at the end of the game, that's why I said in my picks for that game, I picked the Bills, but if it's the playoffs, I don't know, man. I don't know. I still feel like I would lean towards Kansas City to win that game.
See, I'm the other way.
Well, I don't know. We'll see this year.
I picked it wrong because I thought the opposite, but
we'll see this year. But
the big thing about this game is it's probably going to have to be in Buffalo now because they have the tiebreaker and now one game up record-wise and everything like that. So now the road looks like it's going to have to go through Buffalo.
Yep. Yeah. And Buffalo can't get Christian McCaffrey, can they? That's just ridiculous.
Wouldn't surprise me. Would not surprise me.
That can't happen.
So move on to our next topic here. This is a juicy one. So one of the rules for being a member of this podcast is you must hate Tom Brady. Now, as we all hate Tom Brady, do you have any sympathy for the guy? Do you feel bad? Is his life falling apart?
No.
Has he brought it upon himself? I mean, here's a guy who he loses to Mitch Trubisky, goes to the Kraft wedding, misses practice, and then shows up and yells at teammates. Do we feel? No, we don't feel bad for Tom.
No.
I feel bad for Tom Brady's soon-to-be ex-wife and kids. I don't feel bad for Tom Brady. That's all I got.
No, not at all. I mean, seriously, anybody else, and he'd be killed, right? I'm tired of the benefit of the doubt for Tom Brady. 45 years old, his team's struggling. He doesn't want to get hit anymore. Now we're starting to see him put other things above football in a way. Well, not really, because obviously the family situation, but anybody else that would be skipping every Wednesday practice and now skipping out on the walkthrough and not flying to the game with the team, going to his previous owner's wedding where, Bill Belichick wasn't there. None of the Patriots were there at the wedding, but Tom Brady could go. Bad look. And we might not be talking about it if they won that game, but they didn't. They lost to a very bad Steelers team. Mitch Trubisky had to come in. Tom Brady, again, is berating his offensive line, which if we saw other quarterbacks doing it again, we'd think this is an awful look. Where's his leadership? The team looks bad. You can't yell at your teammates when you skipped the last couple of days to go to a wedding. You weren't there. You quit on us. You retired. Then you took another 2 weeks off in training camp for personal reasons. You keep quitting on us and you're yelling at us. We've been here the whole time. Anybody else, and they don't get the pass. But unfortunately, Brady does get the pass, which he doesn't hear, but in the media, he gets the pass, which we hate to see.
I think he still gets the pass in the eyes of a lot of people in public.
Yeah.
My dad says he likes Tom Brady because he likes him as a person. Is what my dad says.
Yeah, I mean he's a funny guy.
Other people as well too. I was like I don't get that. I've really never understood that one as well too, because other than just I don't know what you point to think that he's a good guy. You have no evidence that he really is. You don't have evidence he's a bad guy necessarily.
He's got some personality now.
He does, yeah. Right? Except for the fact that we know that he lied at least once in his career for certain with the Deflategate. He definitely lied in that. Well, maybe it wasn't a huge thing to be able to help him win games. He still lied and still tried to take an advantage to get ahead and never owned up to it. And he was part of Spygate as well too, was involved in that. And so in those two things, I can question your character alone on that. And then you see, obviously, you've put football above your family.
Well, how about the quote
over and over?
Did you see the quote that I sent the other day that he had? Or it might have been even today, or yesterday or today. But
I don't know that I did.
Well, he said that in an interview that he has struggled so much focusing during the NFL season that he puts everything away personal wise, and he equates it to going out on deployment in military for 6 months. That's his excuse to
we're all giving credit for. The guy loves football. Yeah. That's great that you love football that much. But when you have other things in your life and a family, at some point in time, that's got to take precedent. You can't.
You can never equate
compare
to war and going out on deployment.
No, absolutely.
Come on.
Nope.
Yeah, that was a big sympathy card there. I feel like Tampa has been unraveling most of the season. They haven't looked very good offensively or defensively, and that's a big reason why I just feel like right now they're not a contender.
We've won while they beat Dallas pretty easily. Dallas just played off and gave them that game, gave them points. So even that game.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how they bounce back, but I don't have any belief in the Buccaneers at this point.
No problem with me on there. All right, let's roll in here to our Week 7 picks then. So for the first one, Giants traveling and taking on the Jaguars. Man, so I'll start with this. I cannot believe that the Giants are in second place in the NFC East. The Giants, 5-1.
And look at the next 4 games. They could be 9-1 if they win this one.
Which is it's hard for me to. I'm like, I can't see them being 6-1, but I don't know that Jacksonville. They're a good team, but they're not a great team. I hate doing it. Give me the Giants. I just feel like that probably continues, and Barkley keeps on kicking it up.
Jared, can you defend your guy Trevor Lawrence, because he hasn't been playing too well the last couple of weeks? He had an okay game last week, but before I give my pick, sell me on Trevor Lawrence. Can he win this game, because he's been a little spotty?
Yeah, and I think that some of that has to do with the playmakers around him. I know that they went out and got some more with Christian Kirk, but they need a big body wide receiver. I feel like they don't have that. I think that's something that they're definitely going to address in the offseason. But with that said, Jaguars have a decent defense. Giants have really just been riding Saquon Barkley. That has been their offense. That has been their everything. So I like the Jaguars to get the upset here. I'm going to pick the Jaguars in this game.
All right, I'll go Jaguars as well. I think the Daboll has been amazing, coach of the year most likely at this point. And they've been able to get a little lucky here. That the Ravens win was kind of pure revenge. Wink Martindale kind of, he knows Lamar very well, obviously coming from the Ravens to the Giants. But until I see Daniel Jones win it with Joe Schmo and Joe Smith at wide receiver, like, I mean, come on, he's got nobody at wide receiver right now. And if you can stop Saquon, put 8 guys in the box, make Daniel Jones beat you, give me Jacksonville.
Well, for the picks portion, I hope you guys are wrong. For fan portion, because I need the Giants to lose to get us into second place in NFC East, I hope you're right. So next, Jets taking on the Denver Broncos. I'm just going to go real quick here and pass it over to both you guys to tell us. Shockingly enough to say, the New York Jets are a good team. The Denver Broncos are a very bad team. I don't care that it's at Mile High. Give me the Jets.
The fact that this is at Mile High, and I will say the Denver defense looks great. Like, they're a really good defense as well. Russell Wilson's banged up again. Kind of iffy. Yeah, he can't score. This really is going to be a Zach Wilson prove it game, and they have a really good pass defense. Obviously, Surtain has been an amazing player. So their secondary has probably been top 5 in the numbers, and they shut down Justin Herbert last week. I pick with my head and not my heart. I picked the Jets last week and the week before when we had them in the picks. I'm going to pick Denver. And it's going to be a very ugly game, but I'm a little nervous. I think the Jets' momentum's been a little bit too hot. I see this one as a down game, and I see Denver winning.
Real quick, I'll touch on what you just said, though. Again, Herbert, good quarterback, good defense and Chargers as well, too. Bad coach, yes. Yeah. I don't know that Denver's a whole lot better coach either, though, so there you go.
I think, to your point, Thomas, Denver, great defense, one of the very best in the entire league this year. Then our offense just can't score. And our defense is no slouch. So I think that this week is going to be a lot of utilizing Breece Hall, utilizing the tight ends. This is why we got the tight ends. And I think that they –
Please.
Yeah, and I hope so as well. But like you said, the corner play is so good. I feel like the tight ends and the running backs are going to be used a lot in the passing game. And I think that's why we win. Honestly, I think that's why we win. I feel like we come out of there, Greg Zuerlein maybe kicks a game-winning field goal, but I think it's going to be close, and I think we win that game.
Well, Vegas actually does see the Jets as a better team because they're only a 1-point underdog on the road, which obviously we know, on a neutral site, the Jets would be favored here. So Vegas has actually kind of come along the way. The Jets are the first team to be 4-2 and have 4 wins in the first 6 games as underdog in every game in like last 15 years. They're the first team to do that in a long time. So this is, again, now they're the underdog for the 7th straight game, but this one's basically a pick 'em at this point.
All right, Thomas, continue going on the picks here. Give us your Kansas City at San Francisco.
This one's a little interesting because we've seen San Francisco be a very up and down team. And again, the Chiefs had a lot of highs and played pretty well again as well. So I could see this go either way. And we've seen San Francisco and Kansas City. We've obviously seen Jimmy Garoppolo and Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. And that was, San Francisco had the lead for most of that game. The defense is pretty banged up, though, for San Francisco, and they're having a little bit of issues, kind of identity crisis on offense. They're another team that's in on the Christian McCaffrey sweepstakes. I think Nick Bosa might miss this game. They had their best cornerback tear his ACL. I just don't think they're healthy enough. So give me Kansas City coming off a loss. I always love betting Kansas City off of a loss. It's very rare they lose 2 straight. So give me Kansas City.
Ditto. Going with that as well, too. I think being banged up, and I think while coming off of a loss, I don't see Mahomes losing 2 games in a row, especially against the San Francisco team that's very inconsistent. Kansas City, while they're still, like I said, just some questions on offense. I think they're still very much a good enough team to be able to figure this out and then avoid losing 2 weeks in a row. So give me the Chiefs.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a close game. San Fran with a very poor showing against the Falcons, but I'm totally with you guys. I don't see Kansas City losing 2 games in a row. Give me Kansas City.
AFC South battle here between Indianapolis Colts and the Tennessee Titans. You guys got to take it off, and I got to hear you guys talk. I don't know. I don't know.
Indy finally, Matt Ryan looked so much better this past week against Jacksonville, and maybe it's a resurgence, but maybe it was a one-off. We'll see. But this honestly is one of those games where this could tip the scales one way or the other for the division. Tennessee's been the leader in that division the last few years. However, I like Indy just a little bit better. I think that their defense is better than Tennessee's, and I feel like they're going to be able to shut down the passing game. I know that they have Derrick Henry. I know Tennessee has Derrick Henry, but I think Indy plays good defense, comes out with this game in Tennessee.
This one is a rematch because they've already played once, so now they're already getting all their games out of the way. Tennessee did win that first game by a touchdown. Like you said, both teams won last week, and the Colts had Matt Ryan actually played really well, had a lot of great numbers last week. But again, the injury bug here is just a big factor. Jonathan Taylor was a surprise inactive last week after practicing. Still unsure about him. Still unsure about Naheem Hines. Still unsure about Shaquille Leonard. So we don't know if these guys are playing, and even if they do, they've been out for multiple weeks. I'm going to push back. I think the Indy defense has kind of looked subpar. I mean, even in that win, they put up 20. They let up 27 points against Jacksonville. The only games that they've looked good again defensively is really Jacksonville when they shut them. Actually, at the Kansas City game, they lost the Jacksonville game. So the defense is looking a little bit iffy, obviously without Shaquille Leonard. And I think Tennessee just know how to win. Everybody wants to say that it's another down year. They don't have the offensive talent, but Derrick Henry's looked pretty well again, and they just know how to win. I think they're a slightly better coach team, and I think they get it done here.
Give me Tennessee. Being at Tennessee, all the reasons you said, give me Tennessee. Let's bring it home then with Pitt at Miami. I do not think lightning can strike twice in a bottle. Pitt is not a good team. Miami, I understand, doesn't really have a quarterback right now, but Pitt is not a good team. Give me the Dolphins.
Yeah, I agree. Dolphins should be able to have a field day on offense. Coming back to Miami as well. I like Miami in this game.
Well, we're most likely going to get Tua back, which might be surprising to a lot of people, and obviously odd timing because today he came out saying that he was unconscious and doesn't remember the hit, doesn't remember he stretchered out. So welcome back, Tua, and thank you for telling us this and making us feel even worse about you playing this week. But to be honest, the team is a lot different under Tua. He's a lot more efficient with this offense. Not saying he's an amazing player, but the team functions better. So they started off really hot. And then after the 2 injuries, they've had their struggles. But if he's going to be back, and we think that he'll be capable of playing at 100%, the offense should be better, and I think Miami does get it done as well.
All right, well, that will do it for our picks. And again, we'll hand it over to Christian and Peyton for them to give us our NFL picks.
And now moving on to the Week 7 NFL picks. Again, leading the charge right now, and that's really exciting. So let's see how we can fall apart this week. First of all, Giants at Jags. Giants, great team, really fun. Loving what they're doing, but I got to go with Jags in this one. Jets at Denver. You would think Jets. I want the Jets to win. They're actually a competent football team. Actually, in contrast to what Denver is. But 90% of the public is on the Jets right now. I'm going to fade that. I'm going to take Denver. Kansas City at San Francisco. This makes me nervous. I The injuries scare me, but I do think San Francisco has what it takes to beat Kansas City at home. Neutral or away, probably not, but I think they can beat them at home. Give me San Francisco in this one. Indianapolis at Tennessee, I really think it's a toss-up. So I'm going to stick with the same play as my closest competition right now, which is Jared. So I'm going to take Indianapolis. And then finally, Pittsburgh at Miami. Miami in primetime once again with Tua back, probably. What could go wrong? Surely nothing, right? That being the case, Pittsburgh, great win last week. They're going to fall back down to earth. Give me Miami for sure in this one.
All right, NFL picks. This NFL season is just weird. I don't want to make any picks anymore. Giants versus Jags. Give me the Giants. Daboll is, I don't know if he sacrificed his firstborn child to be able to just get these wins or what the deal is, but it's working, and he's got the buy-in from his players. So give me the Giants on the road. Jets in Denver. Denver is not giving me any reason that they know how to spell the word football. So give me the Jets. I will roll with what Salah has going on right now. Quinnen Williams, I think he's going to feast again this week. I mean, is he getting like 2 sacks a game or something like that? It's something crazy, but he has just been playing out of his mind. I honestly think he's the most productive and best interior defensive lineman this season, and it's not even close. Like if they had to go ahead and start picking some all pros right now, first team all pro, Quinnen Williams would probably be the number one in my mind. So yeah, give me the Jets to win that one. Kansas City versus San Francisco. I have so many question marks about Kansas City, but I don't see Mahomes losing again 2 in a row. This is a really tough matchup for them, but give me Kansas City on the road. Indianapolis versus Tennessee, not even a question. Give me Indianapolis. I mean, the arm talent that is Matt Ryan, just you're not going to beat him, So give me Matt Ryan and Indianapolis versus the Titans. So go Colts. Pittsburgh, Miami. Yeah. Tua could just not play this week, and I would still pick Miami. I think that Pittsburgh is they're just a gross team this year. They're, injuries, sure, that causes a lot of issues here with Pickett going out and Trubisky having to come in, but somehow Trubisky was able to beat good old Tommy boy. But yeah, give me Miami at home. I think they're going to be an interesting team as we keep going through the season. It's going to be tough for them to beat Buffalo in that division, but they're not a team that I don't think anyone wants to play in the playoffs once we get there. So, yep, that's my NFL picks. And I know I got every single one of those right. So best of luck, boys.
All right, thanks for that, Christian and Peyton. All right, let's wrap up the week then with our bet locks for this week. So I'm going to kick us off for the college football one quite quickly here, and this is going back to what Thomas mentioned before, bringing in the Liberty and BYU game, that 56-point under. I am going with that.
I'm gonna take that.
These are both two good defenses in BYU and in Liberty. I think Liberty is going to be able to be a good enough defense, especially at home, to even if they lose, they're going to be able to keep control of BYU Cougars. And I don't have a ton of faith in Liberty's offense to be able to get a ton of points and rack up the points in general, but especially on this team. I think it's a pretty straight bet to take the under here. Thomas?
I like it. I like it a lot. You know what? I've got another under here. It's going to be Duke at Miami. Over-under is at 59.5. I think it's too high. Miami's struggled on offense mightily. We know Duke's not very, very great on offense, and they're not having a very good year as well. Miami gets the win, but can they put up I think they need to put up 35, 38 points here to get over that over. I don't think Duke's going to be able to put up many points here. So give me the under 59.5 in the Miami game.
Yeah, and I'm looking at Wake Forest and Boston College at 20.5 points for Wake Forest. Boston College usually has a pretty good defense. I don't see Wake Forest beating them by over 21 points. So I'm going to take I think Boston College covers.
All right, let's switch on over to NFL. So I'm going to go with this is kind of just a heads up, straight up pick game between Arizona Cardinals and
Thursday night
and New Orleans Saints. Arizona is a 1.5 point favorite, 2.5 point favorite, depending on which bet book that I'm looking at on here. I'm going to say they win by more than that. I don't think the Saints team is very good, and it's one of those things I know it's risky to go with on Arizona, but like Kyler Murray is able to just light it up at times. I just think that's going to be this case, and I think they're a better team. I don't think the Saints are that good, and Thomas isn't back. Michael Thomas isn't back probably again yet. Even though they keep on saying he's going to be. I have played him so many times in my fantasy lineups this year thinking he's playing because I'm being told that he is, and then I miss it in time to be able to change it. I'm just going to ride on that he's not going to play again, and that's going to be covered, and it's going to be more than 2. So
I think I got a hot take here. I think Andy Dalton might be the better starter for this team as well, and we're not even sure he's going to start as quarterback because Jameis has been cleared. He might play, but I think this team actually might be better with Andy Dalton.
That's an interesting take. I like it.
I like the pick.
I'm going to go with the Falcons at Bengals. Right now, the Bengals are a 6.5 point favorite. The Falcons haven't lost a game this year by more than 6 points. All 3 of their losses have been 6 points or less. They've been a very competitive team. I think that they cover in that game.
All right. Thomas, take us home.
I got a really interesting teaser here that I like. You obviously want to go through key numbers here, 7-3. Dallas, Dak is back, and they are only a 7-point favorite against Kyle's Detroit Lions here. So
shut the crap.
This is a great game for you to watch, Kyle.
I'm in Michigan. Go figure.
Yeah, exactly.
The Cowboys aren't here.
Seriously. Detroit's very beat up, so I'm going to tease that down to -1. So I just need Dallas to win by -1, and then going over to the Raiders game, I actually was pretty impressed with the talent and the way that they played against Kansas City, and now coming off of a bye. Coaching obviously is a different story, but I think that they're at -7 as well against Houston, and I don't see them losing this game either. So I'm going to tease Dallas and the Vegas Raiders both to -1. So basically, both teams just need to win.
So to go back on the Cowboys Lions thing for a second, the Cowboys don't play the Lions every year, but they play them semi-regularly. Both NFC teams play each other. It always seems to work out that the Cowboys and Lions is with either on the same weekend or within a week of the Michigan State game. And I never usually get both wins. It's usually either I have to listen to Lions fans tell me about my Cowboys losing, or I have to listen to Wolverines fans tell me about how they beat my Spartans. You know what? I hope the Cowboys lose. I hope the Cowboys lose, because if that plays out, then hey, that means my Spartans get a win on next Saturday, and I want that way more than I want a Cowboys victory. So if that's what it means,
well, you're gonna get that win first. Then if it's Saturday, right? So you get the Saturday win, and then Sunday you don't care.
Well, no, because the MSU game's not till next Saturday. So
that's right.
MSU and U of M are both on bye this week. So yes, that is that case. And just I want to end with this and talk about it. Jared, what question did you ask me on Facebook this week?
If you were going to the Michigan State game?
To say it audibly, heck no. I am not going to spend $300 now up to probably with fees up to $300 and some dollars for me to go sit in what is, in my opinion, the worst part of the state to have to go to a night game and listen to that obnoxiousness and hear that fight song and see all that ugly yellow and horrendousness and not have much faith in my team can do anything. I tell you this. I didn't say this on Facebook. If this game was at home in East Lansing, I would probably go. Even same situation, same scenario, because I would be more like, I'll go watch and support my team at home, and not fear for my well-being of it's like I don't want to go to Ann Arbor for that game. If I felt like we had a fighting chance, like a really well-fighting chance, it'd be a different scenario. If I'm here and I had the funds to be able to do it, I would, but I'm not going to waste my money on it. Andrew Street, though, is looking to get tickets to take his brother and his mom and dad next Sunday, so more power to him. But that'll wrap it up for us. Unless you guys have any closing thoughts.
Yeah. Nothing from me.
Good show. Again, play. This was, while we did talk NFL and some other college stuff, this was Peyton.
Congrats, Peyton.
And God's Tennessee Volunteers, as we learned from Peyton, that apparently the Vols have divinity on their side. Apparently, Liberty's not God's team. Apparently, it is the Tennessee Volunteers.
I thought it was Notre Dame.
I thought it was BYU. Oh, no. Just kidding.
Hey, Peyton, appreciate your offensive coordinator a little bit more, please.
Yeah, show him some love next week.
Yeah.
Let's definitely hear about it. All right, that'll do for us at the Illegal Contact Podcast. Make sure you click on that like button, hit that bell to get the subscription notifications. And if you are not subscribed, definitely make sure you subscribe. Check us out every week. Thanks again for listening, everybody. Have a wonderful evening or day, whatever you're trying to listen to it.